Hi, I'm Shauna, and I created this YouTube channel to talk about my Hashimoto's journey and help other women hopefully heal their Hashimoto's. And a canon event in my story is that I had a miscarriage, and I felt like it needed its own separate video because I think miscarriage is something that a lot of women experience, but nobody really talks about it. And I think that it should be talked about. I feel like I had a pretty unique miscarriage experience and wanted to share in hopes that maybe somebody else who is going through something similar can benefit from that. Getting right into it, we weren't trying, but we weren't like being careful. But we were so incredibly happy when I got pregnant, and both of us, like individually, have always wanted to be a parent. And so when we got together, that kind of just like fueled it even more. So we were just so in love and so ready for this baby. I had what's known as a missed miscarriage, and they call it that because it's like your body misses that you've had a miscarriage. So you still have all your pregnancy symptoms and you don't have any bleeding. So I didn't know that anything was wrong. So at the time that I got pregnant, I had only been off birth control for like 6 months, and my cycles were super irregular. So I thought like maybe that's why. And because I had irregular cycles, the doctors had me do a HCG blood test to try to like estimate how far along I was. And then I also was going into my first ultrasound to see how far along I was. But when I got pregnant, I was traveling and I got really sick at the end of the month. And so I was pretty sure about the dates, if you know what I mean. And so when I went into my ultrasound, I thought I was 10 weeks. When we were getting our ultrasound, I didn't really know what I was looking at, but I definitely could see the baby. And she was measuring the baby, and I could see in the ultrasound like screen that it was measuring at 6 weeks, 2 days. And I was like, oh, maybe I don't know how like pregnancy works. I was like, maybe I didn't math correctly. Yeah, we, had our ultrasound, and then we left, and then they called me like 20 minutes after I got home, and the doctor was like, yeah, we think that you have had a miscarriage. And she was going over that because the baby wasn't farther along. And then there was something called a fetal pull. Apparently, I had a weak fetal pull, and they couldn't find a heartbeat. And what she said was that it was possible that I was like truly this early, and I guess the heart is so small that it's not always detected. And so essentially she was like, we want to do another HCG test to see if your HCG is still rising. And then we want to do another ultrasound in a week and see if the baby has grown. So obviously this wrecked me, and I feel like I knew internally that I had miscarried, but because they couldn't give me a for sure answer, and I'm unfortunately a naturally optimistic person, I really leaned into, I think that the baby is okay, and I think that I was just wrong about the dates. And yeah, the week in between ultrasounds honestly was torture. And again, like I feel like I had like there were a couple like things I noticed that I hadn't like I wasn't even bloating at all. When I was pregnant, like I felt like I wasn't growing at all, which given like 10 weeks, I feel like I know that I wouldn't have a bump necessarily at 10 weeks, but I just felt, yeah, I feel like I just knew. But again, I was really trying to be hopeful because I wanted this baby so badly, and I already loved this baby so much. So when I did my HCG test, my levels were going up as a normal pregnancy. And so that gave me hope that, oh, everything is okay. The HCG test, I think, confused the doctors more because, again, like it had raised properly. So then we have the second ultrasound, and the entire week, like, really all I was praying was just that I would have a for sure answer and not be in the limbo, because I just could not take being in the limbo anymore. And I knew immediately when I saw the ultrasound, because the baby was still measuring at 6 weeks, 2 days. So essentially, the baby had passed about a month before my ultrasound. And I do think that, like, my body and just even my spirit, like, wanted this baby so badly that I think that's why it was able to still produce the HCG, because it truly was working so hard to nurture and care for this baby. So then I had this follow-up appointment, which I had already been scheduled. I think it was literally the next day after my second ultrasound. It was supposed to be like my first prenatal appointment, and they just kept it so that I could be seen, because since my body wasn't letting go of the baby, I needed an abortion to get the baby out, because at that point I was at risk of sepsis since the baby had been dead inside me so long. Yeah, I'm like remembering as I'm talking about this, but I guess the nurse didn't see in my chart that I was there for a miscarriage. So she was like, congratulations, like, I'm so happy for you. And I was like, my baby died. And then I swear, like, I had 2 other appointments after that, and each person was like, oh, you must be freshly postpartum, I see that you were pregnant. And then I was like, no. And then the second time it happened, I was like, can you put a note in there that, like, I lost my child, because I literally can't take having people congratulate me. I'm sorry that I'm laughing. I just don't know what else to do. I opted for the pill version of the abortion, which I don't know why I thought you took it like a normal pill. No, if you don't know, you stick it up there. And that whole process, nothing could have prepared me for, like, how much came out and how long of a process that was. Anyways, so, I did release the baby and the placenta and everything that's up there. And so I thought I was done. I woke up about a week later in the middle of the night, and I was starting to throw up, and I was also having very intense pain, like it wasn't quite my uterus area, but it was like my low back. And so I called like the advice line, and they told me to come in. And so we had another ultrasound, and it revealed that the abortion did not fully get everything out. So I was starting to get sick, and they needed to, get it out immediately. And I just really did not want to have this surgery. So I asked if I could do another round of the pill, and they said yes, and it didn't work. So I should have just had surgery to begin with. In their defense, like, the pill is 95% effective. And honestly, like, for some reason, my body, I tend to be like on the outskirts. Like, I tend to be like that 5 or like 1% of the side effects of the medication. I ended up having to have the surgery, and I just want to acknowledge that I am so fortunate that I was able to receive proper medical care for my miscarriage, because so many women don't. And when you hear of women who die from a miscarriage, it's often this exact scenario where the woman isn't able to release all of the fetal tissue and they become septic and they die. And if I lived in a different part of this country, I might not be here to tell my story. So I think just like the physical part, the physical part of miscarriage, where it's like there's literally no one else that is feeling the way that I'm feeling. And also for me, I really went into a dark place mentally. I was so angry at my body, and I was just like furious with myself. I felt like somehow I had done something wrong. Like I just really went into a dark place. And again, because my husband and I have always wanted children, and we've always been like very vocal about how much we want children, and we're very family oriented. And then I got it in my head of like, well, what if I can never give him a child? I was just like thinking all these crazy thoughts. And then when I had my miscarriage, I went on YouTube and I was kind of looking for community and like these other creators, which I'm so happy for them. I'm so happy for them. But a lot of the videos that I watched, they got pregnant like right away. And that was not my experience. But I wanted to kind of also talk about some silver linings of my miscarriage. Something that my dad taught me is whenever something bad would happen to me, we would always talk about it and we would kind of see if we could find like something positive that came from it. And so I have adapted that into all the negative experiences in my life. And I feel like it has provided me, to be able to see the silver linings in the traumatic events in my life. And one of the silver linings was the reason, again, that I started this YouTube channel, is because this happened to me. And then I asked the doctor, like, can you do a blood work panel, or can you do any sort of test that would give me an indication of what's wrong? And they said no, because they said miscarriage is so common that they wouldn't test me for anything unless I had another one. And I was like, if I can prevent this from happening again, like I would do anything. So that is how my whole health journey got started, is because they turned me away. And then I went to a naturopath and I got my blood work done. And then I found out I had Hashimoto's and I healed myself. And then another thing is that my mother-in-law experienced a horribly traumatic miscarriage when my husband was little, and they never really talked about it. I think it was just so traumatic. And again, like, people don't talk about miscarriage, and I think that like grief and loss and death are all taboo. And then I think women's health is really taboo and no one talks about it. And I think that, talking about it does normalize it. And I think that this is something that we should, as a society, be normalizing, because so many women experience it. And again, I think that I know that like opening up about our miscarriage, gave my mother-in-law a chance to talk about hers and got everyone a chance to talk about it. And I think that was really healing. And then I shared on Instagram that we had a miscarriage, and I did kind of detail it in a brief way, like just talked about like having a miscarriage, because again, I want to normalize so that other women can tell their story and can heal, and that we can come together as like a community and like help each other and just be there for each other. And so many women reached out to me after I posted about it. I could not believe how many women in my life had experienced that loss, and I never knew. And that's a huge reason of why I'm making this video. Then there's the waiting period. I did not get pregnant for about a year and a half after my miscarriage. I had a lot of hard moments in the waiting period, so I wanted to share some of the things that I did during that time. The first thing that I did was I went and got blood work done, and I really analyzed all of the information that I got because I wanted to create the healthiest environment possible in my body for when I got pregnant next. Just having that information and then actively doing things every day just made me feel like a sense of progress and then like a sense of hope. So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and I'll link my Hashimoto's journey video down below if you want to watch that. But some other things that I did besides working on healing myself physically is I found myself getting stuck in these like really negative thought loops. I found myself having the thoughts of like, I'm never going to get pregnant, and I'm never going to have kids, and this is just never going to happen to me. I'm never going to be a mom. And I am someone that I do believe words have power. And so I think like continually thinking that and then like saying like, I feel like I'm never going to get pregnant kind of was like solidifying that belief in a way. And so I switched like the thought loop in my head to, I can't wait to be pregnant, and I'm so excited to be pregnant, and just like really believe in myself that I could heal myself and that I would have a baby someday. I also just did everything I could to help support my hormone health. So, I did things like throw out all my fragrance, any product that had fragrance in it, any candles. I changed all our cleaning products. I switched to natural fibers for clothing instead of synthetic fibers. Like, I really was pulling all the strings because I wanted a baby so badly. When I would pray, I would say like, God, please give me a baby in your perfect timing, because I did find myself really fixated on the timing. And every month that we would try, I would think like, oh, if I got pregnant this month, then I would have the baby in October. Then I would just like plan my life as if I was gonna get pregnant in October. And then when it didn't happen, I just would lose it because I was creating these like time constructs. And so I feel like when I was praying like, please give me a baby in your perfect timing, I was kind of like letting go of that. And I do think that that helped me a lot mentally too, of like letting go of trying to plan my life before I knew it was going to happen. I'm so blessed that I was able to get pregnant naturally a year and a half after my miscarriage, and that is something that I do not take for granted. I am so blessed and I'm so thankful. I just want to say that if you've experienced pregnancy loss and you're going through infertility right now, that my heart is with you, and I'm so deeply sorry that that has happened to you. I remember the feelings of despair and hopelessness that I was feeling like it was yesterday, and I hope that my story and my journey through this resonated with you and could give you hope for your rainbow baby. So thank you so much for watching, and please know I'm wishing you all of the best on your journey.